Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review. In today's review, I'm taking a look at the final B&M set for 2020, which is the Witch's Familiar set featuring the 12th Doctor and Davros from Series 9. Once again, a massive thank you to Jamie Bate, who very kindly picked these up for me. As ever, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. The figures come packaged in the standard grey and blue window box packaging, featuring the gold foil limited edition sticker. And yes, there is a slight dating error on the front where it says the Witch is Familiar, but you know, accidents do happen. And then of course, as we look on the back, we can see a better look at the figures in the set, and we also get a biography about the story and a little bit about the continuity of the different Daleks and the different plot points that appear in the Witch is Familiar. As usual, we are treated to a diorama backdrop. This time it's of the City of Skaro interior, which has been lovingly recreated. It looks absolutely fantastic, and as always, it looks great when you display your figures inside it. So as with the previous B&M set, this is mainly a re-release tweak job. However, the 12th Doctor is a slightly different repaint of what was gone before, while Davros is pretty much a straightforward re-release. We'll start off with the 12th Doctor, seeing as he is a slightly new variant. So it's the familiar 12th Doctor sculpt that was used on the Series 9 figures with the hoodie. Head sculpt-wise is exactly the same with the longer Series 9 hair. It's a good likeness of Peter Capaldi, but just like I found with the other ones, I don't think it looks old enough. I don't think it's anything to do with the sculpt per se. I think it's to do with the paint thickness. It loses all of the sculpting details, so it does make Peter Capaldi look slightly younger than he should, but the hair is sculpted very well with all of the curls, and I really like the wash of grey over the top of that darker grey, so it just gives it some slight highlights. Then moving down to the costume, it's the standard dark blue Crombie coat. Again, lovely sculpt from before, very neat and crisp. You can see all of the details of the seams and the buttons and the buttonholes. Very well done indeed. And then underneath that, you've got the hoodie with the grey t-shirt. The hoodie, also, the sculpts are very neat and crisp. You've got some paint details with the silver on the zips. And the t-shirt looks predominantly just a flat grey, but you can see there's a slightly darker grey wash in the middle, which is trying to emulate the print that's on that t-shirt in that story. But obviously, due to the nature of how tight the zipper's done up, you can't see what that pattern is. So I like that. I think that's a really nice touch that they've tried to suggest a hint of that. I think that's really great. And then moving on to the back, again, all of the sculpting here, very crisp, very sharp, particularly in the hood. You can see the seams down the middle and also on the arms and the pockets on the coat. There are a few slight differences compared to some of the other Series 9 12th Doctors, namely that the red button is now missing, and also the ring on his finger no longer has the green jewel painted on there. Moving down to the trousers, these are a dark grey with a lighter grey checkered pattern over the top, just like in the episode. And then moving down to the boots, we have a return of the absolutely massive clown shoes that appeared on the Series 9 figures. This is always quite funny. They're very well sculpted with all of the detailing, with the laces and the fine holes and even the tags on the back, but they do always look a little bit comically large. And just to finish it off, he has the red painted on the inside of his coat. And I have to say, I think this is probably the neatest I've ever seen the red done on one of the 12th Doctor's coats. I think normally there's usually like a bit of a soft edge where the paint doesn't go all the way. On this figure, however, it's very, very neat and tidy, very crisp, and it looks great. So, okay, it may not be a massively huge different variant compared to the other 12th Doctors we saw from Series 9, but it's a new variant nonetheless, and it's been presented very well. So this is a good opportunity for you to get one of these Series 9 12th Doctors if you missed out on the single-boxed releases a few years back. Of course, the one thing that I have to mention is the size of the 12th Doctor figure. He is taller than all of the other figures. He is slightly oversized. I actually think the rationale behind that is that he is actually in scale and all the other figures are slightly under scale. But because of that, it now means that the 12th Doctor looks like an absolute giant compared to everyone else, even Davros. It is an issue that we have seen in the line before. The 6th Doctor figure, for instance, is much shorter than the 5th Doctor, which she shouldn't be. They should be about the same height. But when you get him in isolation, the figure looks great. It's only when you sort of put him next to other figures that you sort of suddenly go, oh, he's huge. He's so massive, in fact, and this did make me laugh when I opened the box, he can barely fit in the packaging. His head is like basically touching the cardboard, which I think is quite amusing. They've even had to make a little dip in the blister inside so that he can fit inside the box. He's that huge. But still a great figure. He looks great in isolation. It's just a shame that the scale for this Doctor was slightly askew. In terms of articulation, he has a swivel joint at the neck so his head can turn. He has those sort of half ball joints at the shoulders, allowing his arms to swivel round and also come outwards. Swivel joints at the biceps, at the elbows, at the wrists, at the waist. Joints at the hips, allowing his legs to move forward and splay out to the sides. And then swivel joints at the thighs, at the knees, and also at the ankles. Then we come to Davros. Always love a Davros figure, and this one is no exception. This is a slight tweak of the Davros that came out for Series 4, Journey's End, that story. The only real major difference, I have to say, is the wash on the face and the silver that's been used. The silver is that bright, brilliant silver that's been used on all of the B&M sets lately, which I absolutely love, and I think it looks fantastic on Davros. He really, really pops. That silver against the black looks fantastic. The detail and sculpting on this figure is incredible as well, particularly when you look at all of the buttons and switches on his control console in front of him. That all looks fantastic. All of the paint apps are very neat and crisp. There are no bleeds. It looks very, very well done indeed. Davros himself, the head sculpt, exactly the same sculpt as used before. It's a sort of darkish brown colour with then a light grey wash over the top. I think this is a great improvement on the original figure because, at least on my one, the face looked kind of glossy and there wasn't much of a wash there. It was very light and it didn't really get into all of the nooks and crannies of the sculpt. Here, however, the heavier wash means that you really get to see those details much better, and it does look all the better for it. The central eye, I think, is slightly different to the original release. Something tells me that the original release had some little white flecks in it. I could be completely wrong there, and unfortunately, all of my figures are in lockdown at my parents', so I can't compare it. But overall, I think the head sculpt is fantastic. What I will say, however, is I kind of hoped that because by this point it was a new mask being used, because it had been so many years since the last time Davros appeared in the series, I was hoping we'd get more of a sort of a yellowish brown colour for the face, because the colouring of the mask seems slightly different between the two stories. So that is my only complaint. I would have preferred perhaps a slightly different colouring for the skin, and perhaps with that a bit more of a darker colour on the eyes. It's a minor criticism for what is otherwise a fantastic figure. The torso, again, sculpted very well. All of the creases and the way that the fabric is folded and hanging on the body. You've got all of the clasps painted silver. The robotic hand, again, very crisp sculpting. You can see all of the individual details of the ridges of the fingers and the screws in the fingers. Very impressive indeed. And then round the back, you have all of the main metal construct of the back of his chair. And then moving down to the fender, this has been cast in a sort of metallic grey colour. All the paint apps on this have been really well done. No real bleeds or anything like that. The only issue I have is there's a tiny little fleck of silver on the side of his chair there. Only a minor gripe. It was worse than that and I managed to get it off, but I might try and get some spirits or something and see if I can get that little bit of silver off. But otherwise, a great looking figure. And then in terms of articulation for Davros, well, he's half Dalek, so that means he's got all of the lower half articulation of a Dalek on the three wheels, two at the back going forwards and backwards, and then you've got the fully rotatable one at the front. You have articulation at the head, a swivel joint so it can turn back and forth, and then swivel joints at the shoulders so his arm can be raised, at the bicep, at the elbow, and also at the wrist. So that's really all there is to say about this set. Obviously, it's not a massively new variant. Like I said, Davros is basically a straight re-release. The 12th Doctor is very similar to what we've seen before, just with some slight tweaks in terms of the shirt and trousers. It's great to see something from the 12th Doctor's era getting a release, and it's always nice to have another version of Davros on the shelf. So this is a really good one to get if you've missed out on any of these figures in the past, particularly the 12th Doctor, who I think probably goes for quite a bit now on the secondary market. But that's it for me. Thank you ever so much for watching, everyone. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas. Keep safe out there with everything going on with COVID. It does look like there's light at the end of the tunnel now. This is probably the last figure release for 2020. So thank you to everyone for watching all of the reviews this past year. A huge thank you to Character Options for passing on figures to be reviewed here and there. And yeah, have a Merry Christmas, have a great New Year. And here's to some more Doctor Who figures coming in 2021. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.